Hey quilters, this is Sarah from Snugglebug Stitching, and today we're going to talk a little bit about a new pattern I have coming up and also a project that I'm making for Missouri Star Quilt Company. So the project for Missouri Star Quilt Company is a challenge. It's Rock the Block, and the prompt for this was to take a block that's kind of your go-to block and reimagine that block. So the block that I have been using a lot lately is the Ninja Star block. So here we're looking at my Ninja Star sampler quilt. This was the quilt I made from my Ninja Star sampler block of the month back in 2024. And I've decided to release some of the blocks as full quilt patterns. So first up is January, and this here is my January block. So as part of this challenge for Missouri Star Quilt Company, we'll make one block the same way you always would, and then one block reimagined. So for my original block, I'm going to make a very similar block to this January Ninja Star that you see right here. So I'm going to use just a plain white background for all the negative space, and then for the foreground, I'm going to use fabrics from that same fabric line. So in this original Ninja Star sampler, I used Marbleized by Benartex, and this was one of their basic lines. It's discontinued now, but these particular colors that I'm using are really bright and saturated colors, and I love that textured look. It kind of has a really cool psychedelic look to it that I just really like. So I'm going to make this block again using similar fabrics. So you can see I've got a green, blue, a little bit darker yellow than I initially used, and I'm going to use this magenta in the place of the purple. So that's going to be the remake of my original block. And for the reimagine, I'm going to invert the color scheme. So what I mean by invert the color scheme, all these parts that you see that are negative space is going to be prints, and prints that are completely different than these. A lot more going on in them than these. And then the parts that would be the foreground, we're going to use the low volumes. So I'm going to use, for my reimagined block, I'm going to use this layer cake that I got from Missouri Star Quilt Company. There's two of them. I've got one of them out so you can see all the prints. But this is Robo Boogie from Benartex by Sugarito Quilt Studio. And you can see just the completely different feel in this fabric compared to this this marbleized fabric. Lots of prints going on, as opposed to this is a very basic fabric. It was one of their basic lines. So where you see these dark psychedelic saturated colors in my original block, I'm going to use these low volume white prints in that place. So I'm basically flipping the color scheme. I'm inverting the color scheme. And the parts that are negative space here, I'm going to use all the colorful prints, and I'm also going to make it super scrappy. So I do use scrappy backgrounds a lot, but I have never done a scrappy background in an inverted color scheme. So I'm kind of excited to see how this comes out. I feel like it's going to be kind of a wonderful mess. All these pretty colors in the place of a background, and then what would be the foreground, this Ninja Star and these squares and this little snowball piece here, will be low volumes. So we're inverting the color scheme. We're going to have both a scrappy low volume for the foreground and a scrappy high volumes for the background. So I'm super excited to see what that looks like, and I'm going to try to make a whole quilt top of those. So I'm really excited to see. I picture this as kind of just a lovely mess with a low volume foreground that just kind of pops out of that lovely mess. So let's make some blocks and see how they look. Okay, so here you see my January Ninja Star that I just made, and I made this in the same style as the original January Ninja Star that I made for the Ninja Star Sampler. This block would feel right at home in the Ninja Star Sampler quilt. Similar colors, similar fabrics. And then the next one we're going to make, we're going to use this layer cake. We're going to invert the color scheme. So everywhere that you see white, we'll use a colorful piece from this layer cake. And I mean, this is one that's still open. Again, that is Robo Boogie from Benartex by Sugarito Quilt Studio. And so everywhere that you see white pieces, I'm going to use colorful pieces. And then the places on here that are the foreground that are colorful on this one, I'm going to use white pieces or white on white pieces, low volumes for the foreground. So it's supposed to look like a nice scrappy background with a white foreground that just kind of pops out of it. So a little bit as far as selecting your fabric, we're going to use the fabric that has bigger design, bigger scale designs in our bigger pieces. So like this big square right here would be a good one for these cute little robots, so you can see more of the robots. And then for these little small squares, maybe something like this one, because that's a small scale print, or even this one right here. And I'll just probably try to make it to where you can kind of see those controls there. And for this middle piece right here, the middle of the Ninja Star, I'm going to use this piece right here for the middle of the Ninja Stars. And just the reason I'm doing that is still what I would consider a low volume print. And I don't know that it would pop as well as, say, this piece right here, or this fabric right here as a foreground, but to have it as the middle piece, it'll make it so that you can still tell that the middle piece is a separate color. So when you look at your pattern for the January Ninja Star, there's going to be, the fabric's going to be listed as color 1, color 2, color 3, color 4, and background. And there is going to be breakdowns, piece breakdowns for how much you're going to use for background and how much you're going to use for foreground for every color and every piece. So it'll tell you how many color 3s and what size pieces that you use for the block. And since I am making that inverted scrappy color scheme with this layer cake, I've also included in the pattern diagrams, cutting diagrams for cutting all these pieces from a layer cake, as well as how many of each diagram you need to cut. So the diagram might show, you know, it's going to be like a 10-inch square, and it's going to show what pieces you cut from that, and it's going to tell you for color 1 or color 2, color 3, whatever, you need to cut this many squares using this diagram. And there's also, like I said, a full piece breakdown, so you can mix and match. So like most layer cakes are not going to have as many low volumes. So if you run out of low volumes from a layer cake that you have, you can always use some other low volumes kind of to bust up your stash. So you can use it as a full scrap buster, or you can use leftover layer cake pieces or a new layer cake, and or any combination mixing matching of the two. So now it's time for me to pick out what I'm going to use from these layer cakes and start cutting pieces, and then I'll show you what my reimagined block looks like. And I'll probably make more than one just so I can show you how they come together. Okay, so both of the Ninja Stars are finished now. On the left, we have my original January Ninja Star, and it's just a classic Ninja Star with some other units around it to add movement. And on the right, we have right there, we have my reimagined block. And that one is pretty much just an inverted color scheme. And scrappy backgrounds, not really new to me, but I've never actually used a scrappy background with an inverted color scheme. So it actually, I feel like it does look a lot different. I do feel like with the one on the right, the reimagined one, the Ninja Star is pretty visible, but these parts right here are a little bit harder to see. And this one starts going together. Once we make more blocks, those corner units are going to come together and form that secondary Ninja Star. So I feel like that will look pretty obvious. And like the more blocks we add together, the more my effect that I was going for is going to show up. So what I'm going for with the block on the right, the reimagined block, for the quilt top is going to be kind of just a lovely, clashy, scrappy mess. Now those colors don't clash at all. Those background colors, the high volume background colors, are all from the same fabric line. So they are meant to coordinate well, and they do. They're super cute. That's Robo Boogie. But I feel like it's going to be, the desired effect is looks like a lot of scraps with the low volume designs kind of popping out at you. So I'm going to make a few more blocks and just kind of see how that's going to look once we start putting it together. I don't have any blocks made with the original color scheme except for that one I showed you at the beginning of the video. But let's take a look and see which one we like better. So here we're looking at this computer-generated image from the pattern cover of the original color scheme for the January Ninja Star. And you can see that the white part kind of does look more like a background. You can see the secondary stars pretty obviously. Of course, you can see the Ninja Star in the middle, and then the where the foreground part of the four patches frame the Ninja Star. But let's scroll over to the other one and we see we've got a completely different look in this other color scheme. So in the inverted stars, like I said, you do see the secondary star pretty well, and I feel like you see the original Ninja Star, but the part that's the background, instead of looking like a background, it looks more like it's part of the design. So, you know, they're both really cool. It just depends on which one you want. This is more of a, I feel like, scrappy version, maybe a little bit more of a fun and happy color scheme, whereas this one looks more modern. But, you know, different people like different things. The instructions for the pattern comes with the yardage version that you're seeing here. And also for a piece breakdown so you make it scrappy, and some guidance for this. And also I've got a breakdown showing you, like, if you wanted to make this one with all leftover layer cake squares or new layer cake squares, something like I did, there's guidance for that in there as well. So you can make both of them in the pattern. And which one do you like best?